Welcome back, you lovely human beings. This is Imperfect Progress with your host, Hennessy, a safe space where we dive into the feelings, tools, and experiences that make a full and flawed life. Today, we're talking about being uncomfortable on purpose. Bear with me, everyone, as I am both the preacher and the choir in this episode. So please don't feel judged if you don't really like stepping out of your comfort zone, because I am right there with you, folks. I'm the kind of person who loves the idea of adventure, new places, new people, and exploring. But if I'm being honest, I would not have signed up for the Lewis and Clark expedition or sailed off on the Mayflower to find a new land. I probably would have romanticized the idea for a while and then overthought the reality of what those choices meant. Cramped boats, being cold with no real shelter, engaging my fight or flight response on the hour, feeling tired, and leaving my people in places I'm familiar with. So, yeah, for all my talk about loving adventure, the reality is that there's also a reason I still live close to my family and have an emotional support dog. Now, here I've given some extreme examples, but we have daily opportunities to choose comfort or something else. The problem with the something else is that we don't know what our experience will be like, and that uncertainty can make us nervous. So we usually opt for the known choice and avoid the uncomfortable feelings. We go to our regular cafe. We take the same route home. We watch that repeat binge show. And these things aren't bad. There are moments where we need comfort and stability to help us cope with the ever changing chaos of being a human. But there are also benefits of embracing discomfort. The main reason we avoid uncomfortable situations is that nervous and anxious feeling we notice. We don't like it. Some people get sweaty, others get stomach aches, a tight chest, or more. Since we register these feelings as unpleasant, we step into avoidance instead of acceptance. We want to remedy the feeling because we think it's a sign of something bad or of something we can't handle. But if we shift our mindset from, oh no, stop this unpleasant feeling, there's no way this can be helpful, to these sensations are unpleasant, but I know they're preparing and fueling my body for this new experience. Might still feel bad, but realizing that the boost of adrenaline and cortisol in your body is actually helping you adjust to change and that it's temporary makes it feel less out of control, more manageable. Maybe you've had a situation where you were so nervous that you honestly didn't want to go and do whatever it was that you had planned. The anticipatory anxiety sucked out all of your motivation and fogged your brain with worst case scenarios of what would happen or how you would feel. And then, like 20 minutes into the event, you were mostly fine. Afterwards, on the way home, you might even laugh and wonder what you were so worried about in the first place. The same can happen with a task. You have a report for work that's due and it seems insurmountable. You panic and procrastinate, telling yourself that there's no way you'll get this done or get it done well. You simulate the failure in your mind until it feels like a reality. But after lots of hard work and tenacity, and maybe not enough sleep, you complete the report and your boss gives you an approving thumbs up. Afterwards, you feel a sense of accomplishment and you wonder why you didn't believe in your ability to do this when you are clearly capable. This roller coaster of thought spirals and emotions are the default process for many of us, but they don't have to be. We can, in fact, train our minds to think differently about new, challenging, uncomfortable things. Earlier this week, I saw a reel on Instagram that said the number one characteristic that predicts someone's success is grit. Some people might find that inspiring. I found it defeating because I've never thought of myself as someone gritty. Grit is the quality of having courage and resolve. I don't know about you, but that word just makes me think of an old John Wayne movie I watched once with my grandpa, and I definitely don't have a John Wayne personality. I don't see myself as tough or tenacious, an unwavering fighter. So yeah, the grit video wasn't for me. Or so I thought. I started talking it out with my partner, and he challenged my perception of what courage and resolve look like. It's true that I'm not a character from the Wild West, but I have faced challenges and come out stronger on the other side. I've walked through hard things without completely giving up. I wanted to give up, a lot, which apparently is normal. I didn't know that everyone wants to give up on stuff like all the time. I thought it was just me. That was another happy you're not alone moment for me, and hopefully for you too. So it turns out I do have some grit. And beyond that, I'm learning that you can develop your grit muscles just like you can strengthen your patience or your abs. They all require practice. In order to develop grit and embrace discomfort, we have to accept two mindsets. One, we are capable of growth and change. And two, that stress can be enhancing. That zing we get with stress isn't all bad. It can be fuel that pushes us through a challenge by increasing our focus and productivity. The problem usually comes when that stress is prolonged over such a long period of time. Then it's more damaging than helpful. But when we channel those increased senses and feelings to the task at hand, instead of dwelling on potential unwanted outcomes, we can experience growth. We realize that our ceiling for stress management and success are higher than we thought. We find out that we're stronger and more capable than we originally labeled ourselves. And that sense of pride we have for ourselves when we come out on the other side of a challenge is another way of fostering self trust. You prove to yourself that you can do and be something that you didn't believe before, and that's so empowering. On top of shifting your view of yourself, embracing discomfort and coming through it as your authentic self releases a healthy dose of dopamine into your brain. And we love the happiness chemicals. It's crazy to think that getting uncomfortable and feeling all of those unpleasant feelings for the sake of moving forward is actually what helps you create pleasant, happy feelings. At this point, you might be thinking, yeah, girl, that's definitely crazy, and you're a little crazy if you think that I'm going to put myself through extra anxiety just for a little dose of dopamine. All right, I get you. But the long term benefits of getting uncomfortable can be so worth it. I'm not saying you'll be happy with the outcome every time. There will be uncomfortable moments we embrace and later wish we hadn't. That's always a possibility. But the goal isn't just to act in a way that produces the outcome we desire, but instead to walk through each uncomfortable situation being your true self. And this might confuse some of you who've known the extra extroverted young version of me, but these days I get hit with some serious social anxiety and preemptive fear of overstimulation. If I think a place is going to be too loud or too different or I won't know anyone, I'm likely to make an excuse for not being able to go and just stay home. I like my books and my candles and tea and a weighted blanket. That's my happy place. But I'm also the one you'll find complaining about feeling lonely. And sad as it may be, I can't easily make new friends or even spend time with old ones by hiding in my comfy cave. Which leads me to my current summer in San Francisco. One day, my partner said we had been invited to a rooftop get together. He knew a couple of people who would be there, but not everyone. And I knew exactly no one who would be there. Now, I've been in this city for about a month at this point and haven't had any social interaction outside of my partner and one trip to a free hot yoga class that I didn't know was a hot yoga class when I signed up and promptly didn't return. I had a few days' notice about this cocktail party, which meant plenty of time to stew. The day came and I was beyond agitated. I was panicking about being late, even though that's a pretty normal social custom in the circle we were headed for. I changed my outfit at least 8 times. I got crabby with my partner because he didn't have the same sense of urgency I had. Then we were on the way there and he said we should stop to bring something. And oh lordy, I was not prepared for a detour on our way and I slipped even further into unpleasant chaos. He asked me what was wrong and I started spouting off complaints about being late or making extra stops or the weather. The truth was that I was just out of my mind with anxiety, thinking about whether or not I would fit in this with people, if they would like me, if I would have fun, or if I would be miserable. Also, I hadn't eaten all day because I was so anxious, which means we can add hanger in as a factor. I'm sure you can picture the hot mess express I was rolling up to this unknown part of town in this unknown city to meet these unknown people. I assumed people would see I was a small town girl or not in business or fintech or software or whatever else people in San Francisco do for work and judge me. I spent the whole day in the ride there simulating these things in my mind until I was crying, a little nauseous, and had a nice anxiety knife in my chest. I was not open to logic at this moment, no matter how lovingly and well intentioned my partner was as he tried to discuss some of these same concepts about discomfort with me. So I shut down. Safe to say, that's not the prime state to be in as you get ready to meet new people and have fun. After a long bus ride, where by the way, I felt like people were extra staring at me because I'd already decided I wasn't city or social material, we finally arrived. I spent the time waiting for our host to take us up to the roof, wishing I was wearing sweatpants on my couch with whichever Sarah J. Maas novel I was on at that point. Instead, we made it up to the roof where we were the only ones there, even though we were late, and I got to experience an incredible 360 view of the city. We chatted with our host and waited while more people arrived. I still wasn't convinced at this point, but a little while later, a couple with a dog showed up, and I knew I had come for a reason. I left my little buddy in Michigan for the summer, so I was in severe need of puppy snuggles. Meeting the dog led to meeting the dog parents. And you know what? They were super cool. We split a pizza and talked all night by a little fire pit. We exchanged phone numbers and made plans to hang out again. I didn't connect with everyone at that party. I didn't float around. Nope, I stayed right in my little spot. Not every part was enjoyable. There were awkward moments. But by the end, I was really glad that I went. And more than that, I was glad that I didn't pretend to be someone I wasn't while I was there. I didn't shy away from my non cittiness or the fact that I normally work with 8-year-olds. Instead of pretending to be something I'm not for the sake of fitting in and achieving my desired outcome of belonging, I let people see the real me and decide if they wanted to connect or not. And I think that's the reason I even made the connections that I did. So what started as anxiety and discomfort slowly transformed into happiness, a deeper appreciation for myself, and more trust in myself to make it through uncomfortable things. Now, this was a very unenlightened version of embracing discomfort and developing grit. Sort of fumbled through until the end and then learned all my lessons in hindsight, which is how I figure out a lot of life, it seems. But I'm sharing this with all of you so that maybe you don't have to learn it the hard way. And maybe I don't have to put myself through that level of suffering again. Instead, I can change my inner dialogue when faced with a new situation. I can shift from, this is so uncomfortable and I want this feeling to go away as soon as possible. Someone please get me out of here. To, this anxiety is letting me know that something new and unknown is coming. I can use that as fuel to grow into who I am in this situation. I might even find some unexpected benefit or success to take me on the next step on my journey. Mindset is such an influential factor because mindset is another word for the patterns we've wired into our brain that help us predict, plan for, and respond to the world. We're making predictions all day long about what's happening or what will happen or how other people might react. And that's not going to change. But the patterns our predictions take change based on our experiences and the thoughts and actions we practice. We can practice being open to newness and change. We can practice being uncomfortable and looking for the glimmers of goodness in those experiences. We can reflect on how it feels to overcome and push through and see if that's a feeling we want to keep cultivating through our actions. Another piece of embracing discomfort is finding what practices keep you present and grounded in the midst of being uncomfortable. Since the crazy truth is that you can feel more than one thing at a time. You can simultaneously feel uncomfortable and distressed while also practicing peace and clarity. And with practice, the level of calm you create will outlast the level of stress that you feel. We've talked a bit about coping skills before, and those same tools of deep breathing, focusing on your senses, etc., are great. I'd like to add a few new tools to our buckets today that can help us through uncomfortable times. One coping skill I like to practice is repeating a grounding phrase to myself while doing some kind of simple movement. For example, anxiety often tells us we're not safe. So I like to employ a mixed physical cognitive tool to restore a sense of safety to my mind and body. I cross my arms so that my hands are touching the opposite arms, and I start doing some quick tapping. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I tap up and down my arms while repeating, I am safe. If you don't want to tap on your arms, you can also discreetly tap on your legs and no one will notice. This tapping is part of a therapy called EMDR that uses bilateral stimulation to simulate the state your brain goes through in REM sleep, which is when we process difficult or traumatic memories, and it simultaneously calms the nervous system. We can apply the same technique to difficult emotions we're experiencing in the moment. Using a grounding phrase during the tapping helps to integrate that thought, overriding the default sense of fear and danger that we associate with anxiety. So, some tapping, breathing, and self talk are great tools to work through an uncomfortable moment. Another tool I like to use, which is more helpful when you're in the anticipation phase of an uncomfortable experience, like the 2 days and whole morning I had leading up to that party, is writing down things you know. Instead of spending those 2 days simulating possible disasters that could happen, I could have spent my time making, adding to, and reviewing a list of knowns. This practice can be very grounding when our minds start to slide down the rabbit hole. For example, my things I know list before that party could have looked something like this. I know this party is temporary. I know I have met new people before and enjoyed it. I know I am good at talking to people. I know I have made new friends before. I know I can leave if and when I want to. I know I will not be stuck. I know new things help me grow. I know this is an opportunity to practice being who I am in a new space. This list you make has to come from your truth and your values. If you have never gone to meet new people and enjoyed it, then that's probably not going to be a known factor that goes on your list. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but it might not be one of your knowns. I've used this practice to also work through spaces of confusion, when I didn't know what I wanted or what I needed. You can make a list of things you do know, and that process of grounding yourself in your truth will make the next step a bit clearer, your resolve a little more solid. If I had made this list before the party, then I could have reread it in those moments on the bus or in the lobby when I was second guessing showing up. Think of all the things and people you really enjoy, but wouldn't have if you hadn't showed up somewhere for the first time. What if you hadn't gone to that game night, never taken that random class, or didn't reach out to that friend of a friend? How would your life look different now? What if your family or your friend hadn't dragged you camping or to the symphony or to play pickup basketball? When we're kids, everything is new, so we're forced to go through this discovery process by the mere fact that we exist in an unknown world. When we grow up, we often stick to what we know without contemplating the incredible benefits of getting uncomfy. I'm applying for a whole slew of jobs right now, jobs that seem vastly different on paper from what I've done before. But I'm sticking with it on the chance that I discover a new way to pursue my passions and gifts that I didn't know existed before. And I've decided that once I'm back in Michigan, I'm going to finally sign up for some kind of creative class: pottery, dance, drama, something. Even though I'm an adult who isn't skilled at any of those things and is worried people will just laugh at my inexperience. But I'm going to do it, because what if it's actually so much fun and I make a friend and I find a new hobby or a passion? I don't want to stop discovering life just because living is hard and uncomfortable, and cuddling with my dog while watching Sweet Home Alabama for the 200th time is easier and so cozy. There are times for that. And I will definitely still be doing that until I'm old and gray and my grandkids are asking who Reese Witherspoon is. But there are also times to step outside of our box, outside of our routine, outside of our comfort zone, and see what life has to offer and what we have to offer life. Because your experience and insight and personality and whole being are a gift to the rest of the world. So don't deny yourself or the world the joy everyone might find if you show up to that thing and give that other thing a shot. Speaking of sharing your beautiful life with the world, I want to give a shout out to the people who have reached out to tell their stories on the show. Look out for their interview episodes coming up soon. And if you're interested in having a chat or being a guest, or you know someone who might be, please reach out to me at imperfectprogress.pod at gmail.com. That's also in the description. I'd love to meet you and expand our community. Remember that you are stronger and more capable than you might believe. Keep baby stepping it, my imperfect people, because even that is grit.